Times have changed and really have gotten to that where back in the older times with music, it was more about the music. You just created the music, and if somebody heard you,
right,
you were able to make it. But now you can't just be a musician and expect to make it. You got to be a social media influencer.
Yeah.
You got to do all these
Manager,
things.
Bookkeeper,
all those things, and that's another aspect. Calling and booking shows, talking to people.
We're turning up the Bourbon Room. Dalton Jones is stepping in, bringing real country, real stories, and nothing held back. No filters, no pretending. Just the truth behind the music. Publishing this Sunday on YouTube.
Welcome to the Distillery, where we boil the songs down to the stories that made them, where you, the listener, get to know the writers behind the songs. Our goal here is to bring in these songwriters so that we can get to know them better and get to know their music, the stories behind the song, and we get to know it. We know it's raw, and we intentionally do it that way, and we hope you like it. My name is Greg McKenzie, and I'll be your host tonight, and our guest songwriter is Dalton Jones from Jacksonville, Alabama. But before we get into getting to know Mr. Jones, let's pay the water bill. So how about a word from our sponsor?
Dana Guy at House of Color helps you find the right colors and your personal style. Serving Franklin and beyond. Call 615-305-7396 or click the link in the bio to schedule a direct appointment. Looking for the best in indie country music? Tune in to EMM Radio, your home for fresh country hits, exclusive artist interviews, and live performances. Stream it all at emmradio.us. Real country, real music.
And we're back. Mr. Jones, or do you prefer to be called Dalton?
You can call me Dalton.
All right, Dalton. Before we get started here, is there anybody you want to say hey to?
I want to say hey to my kids and my wife at home, Tiff, Ellie, Laura, and Nori. I love you so much, and thank y'all for supporting me.
Good. All right. You started playing, singing and gospels in church, right?
I did.
With your dad. Your dad was a Southern gospel tenor?
He was and still is. He's a phenomenally talented singer. I grew up in church listening to him sing, and it was just natural. I wanted to get up on stage with him and experience that.
What was some of the memories of those that still gives you chills today?
You know, my dad, I can remember growing up and listening to him sing, and Beulah Land. Beulah Land is one of my all-time favorite Southern gospel songs.
It's a great song.
And listening and hearing my dad sing that song, it gives me chill bumps. Listening to him play that song or sing that song, I should say, it just so good. And I still, I can remember listening to him and watching him perform that as a kid at a small age. And
is that where you learned to start controlling your voice? When you
I would say between singing in choir in church, and then I also took choir in school for a couple of years, and so that helped me out a lot. Of course, my voice now is kind of getting a little bit further away from choral type voice, but it definitely helped me in control and range and pitch.
Now you grew up in Jacksonville, Alabama, right?
I did.
Born and raised there?
Born and raised, still live there.
And you taught yourself to play the guitar around age 10?
I did. So I have undiagnosed ADHD. I'm a Mr. Do-It-All. I've always been that way. I have lots of hobbies, too many. And so my dad, he bought me a guitar when I was about 10 years old, and I started taking lessons, and the lessons were cool, but my instructor, he would come in and he would break out the guitar and start playing some Van Halen or Stevie Ray Vaughan or something like that, and I was so upset because I've always been the type of person, I can't stand when somebody can do something and I can't, and he would come in and just fly up and down the neck of the guitar. And so I told my dad, I was like, I'm out. I don't want to do lessons anymore. And I took lessons for maybe 2 weeks. And it sat in the corner of my room for a while. And I got tired of staring at it one day. And I said, you know what, I'm going to teach myself. And I did. I took it up and taught myself how to chord and
I
how
got
to
an
pick
old
out.
Mel Bay guitar book is what I got.
Yep, that's
Learned
right.
the chords and so forth. So, what was the first song that you learned, or the first riff that you learned that made you actually think, I can do this?
The first, of course, "Smoke on the Water" is, I think that's like a rite of passage as being a guitarist. But I would say the first riff that I really learned, I was a big Metallica fan at a young age.
Really?
And so I would say one of the very first riffs I learned how to play was actually one by Metallica, and playing the intro to that song was one of the very first riffs that I learned, and that's when it really started to click, was doing that. And
That's when you really figured, I can do this.
yeah, that's right. That's
Now,
right.
your influences span from Charlie Daniels to Waylon Jennings to Metallica.
Mm-hmm.
How do you kind of blend those seemingly different worlds?
So I grew up listening to all aspects of music. In my house when we were growing up, we loved all types of music, from gospel to, we would listen to rap and hip hop music. We would listen to rock and roll. We'd listen to outlaw country. You name it. We listened to it all. And so I grew up listening to a broad range of music. I always enjoyed music, just period. I even took a classical guitar course when I was in college. And so, Charlie Daniels, I would say, plays the heaviest role in like some of the inspiration of my music and kind of where it comes from. I always loved his music, loved it. He was such a talented musician, and the way that he could work a crowd, and his lyrics to his songs were just so powerful and so good. And he could sing a serious song that could, really grab you, but also he could do the silly songs,
Right,
and so that kind of, it stuck with me. And so when I started doing music on my own, I've been singing for years, but when I started doing this on my own, it was kind of like I wanted to find my tone, but I also wanted to have some similarities, but be unique. And so it was just natural. I kind of progressed towards that kind of country, but country rock, and maybe with a little splash of outlaw country in there. And because that's what I grew up listening to. And that was, I would say, out of all the music that I listened to, that was probably, or there's no probably to it, that was my favorite genre and style of music, was really country rock and outlaw country. I loved Willie and Waylon and the Boys and Hank Jr. and listening to that music, and love playing it. I play it at every show I play at today. So I love playing that stuff.
Now, you've described your voice as having kind of a baritone, alto rasp to it. Mm-hmm. How did your early gospel singing and so forth, did that feed into developing that? And how does that help you with your approach to stage presence?
So I'll be honest with you, I didn't really find what I call my voice probably until about 5 years ago. It was probably roughly 5 years ago. So I started singing karaoke around 2010. And that was actually how I met my wife. I met my wife singing karaoke. And we were out and just having a good old time. And I would sing in these places all the time. And karaoke is all about singing like somebody else.
Yeah.
And, I did that for years. And one day I was singing, and I don't even remember what song it was. I think it was a Jamie Johnson song. And I had sung the song many, many times. And for whatever reason, I was like, I'm going to open up on this song. And I had never done it before. I'd always been real safe and just, kind of stayed in my lane. And I opened up on that song, and everybody was like, man, you killed that. And so after that moment, it clicked with me. And so I would say, before that time, I sang more of a crisp, pure choral type voice. I mean, that's how I sang. And I found that raspiness. Mm-hmm. And of course, at the time I smoked cigarettes. So that helped a little bit to that. But, that I would say it was just it was like a light switch went off.
Now, before your music became a serious pursuit, you worked, like the rest of us, you worked a full-time job and everything. Mm-hmm. When was that aha moment when you realized you just can't keep music on the back burner anymore?
So I'll be honest with you. My musical career is still very young. So I started performing out as a solo artist in August of 24. And my wife, we just passed 10 years of marriage this year, and we went to Rock the South in Coleman, Alabama. And it was an awesome lineup. I mean, they had Hardy was in there, they had Jelly Roll, they had Parker McCollum, Big and Rich played, Gretchen Wilson. There was, oh my gosh, Gavin Adcock was like just starting to get big and was on there. I mean, just a great lineup. And we had the time of our lives. I grew up pretty poor. We didn't have a whole lot when I was young. Of course, my dad, as I got older, we had a much better life, and he had a good job. But you know, we didn't go to concerts, and we didn't do things like that. We just didn't have the money or the funds to do it. And so I didn't get to go to many. And so this was my first like big festival. Yeah, it was the first big festival. And we had the time of our life. And I watched all these people out in the middle of this cow pasture, literal cow pasture. And it's 100 degrees outside, and then it pours down rain, and everybody's soaking wet, and there's a big mud pit in the middle. People start sliding and having a big mudslide in the middle of this festival.
Like a country Woodstock.
Right, it was a country Woodstock, and I said, you know, this is redneck paradise. And we just had a great time. And my wife and I got in the car, we were on the way home, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I looked over at her and I said, I'm doing music. Like, I'm going to do it legit. I'm no more karaoke. And we can still do karaoke, but I'm going to do this for real.
Right.
And I'm the type of person.
What'd she say?
No, she said, thank God. I mean, she was so happy because she had been pushing me. For 10 years, my wife pushed me and pushed me and pushed me. She was like, you need to do more with music. You need to do more. And people would tell me all the time, because most of the time I sang in church. I sang a lot in church and did special music. And people all the time would be like, man, you sound like a country music singer. And, you know, of course, in church, I always felt like people were just saying that just to be nice, you know, because they kind of got to. And so I finally, one day, I took her up on it, and it was the best decision I ever made. I love this. I love music.
No looking back, huh?
No, it's a bug. It's a bug, and it bit me hard. And I enjoy it. I enjoy people. That was one of the things that I took away from that concert when we left, and I was looking at my wife. I said, I want to bring people that much joy, because if I can do that, I'm doing a good thing.
Job, yeah.
I'm doing a good thing. And so that's what I've kind of set out and kind of strive to do.
Well, you've been playing now for what, almost 30 years?
I've been singing for 30 years. So I started singing when I was 4. So I'm almost 35.
Yeah.
And, but I've been playing the guitar now for a little over 20 years. And music's
getting where you know the block now.
I do, and it's in my blood. You know, I have so much musical talent in my family. My dad can sing. My dad's pretty much his whole side of the family can all sing. They're all super talented. I have a cousin. I have 2 cousins actually that are both country music artists too, and trying to do big things. So it's, you know, it's great. It runs in our family, and to kind of continue doing that is so much fun.
Well, what looking back in your early years of open mics and gigging and so on, what would you say has taught you the most about connecting with a crowd?
So, well, first of all, you gotta grab them early, right? You know, one thing I found very early on is that when you're playing the bar scene and you're playing the nightlife scene, you know, typically in most instances, people come in there expecting there's going to be live music, but it's really background noise.
Yeah.
And that's the expectation. And so if you're really trying to do it for real, trying to grab their attention early, that's all the differentiator in the whole experience and doing that. And I found that if I stayed true to myself and I did me, as that'd be the young term, that people liked that. They liked it. And I started At first, I was a cover artist. I did all covers, and I started writing my own music, and I started noticing that I would do an original song, and I would tell them the story behind why I wrote that song, where it came from, like what I was dealing with that day to make me write that song. And I would be playing at a restaurant, or I'd be playing at a bar, and I would notice people would go from looking at their phone or looking at, whatever they're doing. They'd stop and they would turn and they would look at me. And that was when it clicked. I was like, people like to hear that stuff. And so that helped me tremendously as an artist.
Let's talk about your songwriting process for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You have said in other interviews that you're an ad-lib writer.
I am.
Explain that a little bit.
So, it just starts with words. I've been a songwriter my whole life and didn't know it. Okay. I could take the silliest situation, and even this goes to my kids. I got 3 little girls, and I can remember doing simple things like changing a diaper. And I would make up this silly, just goofy song and sing about changing their diaper. And they would laugh and giggle and have a good time. And, I just always did that. And just come off the fly. And so when I really started sitting down and writing, it's kind of the same concept. I get my guitar and I'm just playing. I'll just be playing chords and just going through different progressions. And it's usually at times when I'm at high emotion, something happened that day, whether I'm mad or sad or whatever, indifferent.
Yeah.
And I just start playing and it just comes out. It just comes out. And I've most of the songs I would say that I've written to date, I wrote them in probably an hour and a half or less. That's almost every single one of them. Now I've got some that it took a couple of days spread apart, because I would start writing and maybe get a verse or a chorus and finish.
A bit. Yeah.
But most of the time when I do a song, it's like I sit there and just power it out right then. And
now your wife Tiffany, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
She's your biggest fan, of course, and she's also your biggest sounding board, right?
She is. Her and my daughters, they are also super supportive of what I do.
What's the best piece of advice she gave you?
Be yourself. Be yourself and do this and just do it. And that was, I would say, the biggest thing that she gave me was to chase it and to do it. And she's been so supportive in every aspect. I mean, she's a stay-at-home mom, and she stays at home with our girls when I'm out all night long playing and doing these shows.
That's hard to do too.
It is. I mean, she does bedtime by herself, and she takes care of them and feeds them, does supper and everything by herself. Most every weekend she's doing that by herself, and so she is super supportive. And I wouldn't be able to do it without her. Wouldn't be able to.
That's incredible. Now, a lot of your songs draw from small town Southern life, and hard times. Yeah, you mentioned that you've been through some hard times yourself. How would you say that's played into your songs, and how do you decide how much you're going to divulge and how much you're going to keep private?
Well, I'm gonna put it out there, person. I think we all have demons, and we all have things that that are in the closet. But I've always been taught in life it's better to get things out. And not to really keep them locked in. And I'm not afraid to get vulnerable, and I'll tell people straight up. It's like, hey, I have a song that I wrote about my wife, and when she and I first met, I was borderline alcoholic. I was drinking, trying to drink my problems away, and miserable. I was miserable, and she kind of saved me from that. And so I love telling that story of why I wrote that song and why that's important to me. And I think that I've been through those hard times, and I want people to know when they hear one of my songs that I'm a real person. I'm not some fairy tale guy that just knight in shining armor. Like I'm a real person. I've been through times with my wife where we had $40 to last us for 2 weeks. I mean, I've been there. I've done that, and it's tough.
That's raw.
It is. It is.
That's where the rubber meets the road, right there, especially in relationships, because Nothing parts of a relationship more than money.
Mm-hmm. And I can remember my mom kind of going to that. My mom, she worked in the lunchroom. She was a lunchroom lady at a local school. And there was a time where my wife and I, the only reason why we had food to eat was because my mom would bring us leftovers from the lunchroom.
Yeah.
And we loved chicken finger day because she would bring a whole bag of chicken fingers, and that's what we would eat.
Hey.
And so,
you got to do.
So, I mean, I've been there, I've lived that, and I've had the struggles, and I've had the hard times. And so I just kind of let that come out and tell those stories and put it in song form, because I know that somewhere, somebody is going through the same thing or worse. And if that song that I write or I sing and I play can make them feel even just that much better, then it's done its job.
Yeah. Now, do you ever worry about it getting too heavy for country radio?
As far as like on the strong side of the music, no. I mean, I don't. I try to stay in my lane. I'm not going to be doing no heavy metal or things like that. And then too, like on my songs, I want my kids to be able to listen to my music. I'm talking about
the raw honesty of what life is all about. You don't worry about that being too heavy.
No, I don't think so. I feel like I try to come from a real place and come from honesty, and I don't think so. I think it always has a place. I really do.
Yeah, it's story. It's life. Country music's telling the story of life. Now you record with a producer by the name of Josh Bright.
Josh Bright. Yep.
Now, and he's in Boaz.
He is. He's in Boaz, Alabama, and it's like
how does that collaboration work?
Oh my gosh, it's like having an ace in the hole. I mean, he's right down the road from the house. I mean, I can be at his place in an hour, 50 minutes maybe. And he's so talented. The guy, it's such a cool experience because I've talked to other musicians and they record in different places, and it's not always like the way he is. And it's one of those deals. I go there and it's an all day session, get there at 9:00 in the morning. He tracks the whole song in front of me.
He plays all the instruments.
He does all the instruments. He does the keyboard. He does everything. And he tracks it all right there in front of you live. I get to give him feedback and say, hey, I like that or I don't like that. I've never told him I don't like that. But he has a way of articulating the notes in the song, and it's so cool. For me, I appreciate the music as much as I do the lyrics and the singing and the vocals. I mean, I love the instrumentation and listening to that. And Josh does such a good job with creating that song and making that sound.
Now, as an independent artist, you've recorded several songs and released them, like Right Here in the South, Country Nights, Nothing to Lose. And I've listened to them all, and they're very good songs.
Thank you.
Which one of those you feel like taught you the most about refining your songwriting process or your voice?
I would say out of those songs, the one that really helped me refine or start really getting my tone, I would say right here in the South. That song, that was probably the 7th or 8th song I wrote. And
you were saying you wrote that because you were pissed off.
I did. I was pissed off when I wrote that song. To be honest with you, I had somebody that just was just disrespectful, and I was brought up. And in the lyrics of that song, you can hear it. But, I was brought up that when you talk to a man, you look him in the eye, or when you shake his hand when you introduce yourself, and there's a way you carry yourself.
Right.
And this person had just been disrespectful, and I was trying to be respectful to them, and they were not back to me. And so I was really upset, and I wrote that song. That's where it came from.
It's a good song, and it talks about the upbringing too. You learn to say yes, ma'am, and no, it's never sure, and so
That's
forth.
That's right.
We're going to talk a little bit about your career journey. and the places you play down there in Jacksonville, Alabama. Before we do, we need to take a word and get a word from our sponsors.
Dana Guy at House of Color helps you find the right colors and your personal style. Serving Franklin and beyond. Call 615-305-7396 or click the link in the bio to schedule a direct appointment. Looking for the best in indie country music? Tune in to EMM Radio, your home for fresh country hits, exclusive artist interviews, and live performances. Stream it all at emmradio.us. Real country, real music.
Now you're gigging, and I think it was, I counted 12 counties in Alabama. You said more than that now because you're down in Georgia and so forth, and holding down a full-time job.
Yes.
What's your full-time job?
So my full-time job is awesome. I enjoy it. I love it. I'm a dream chaser. I have always, my entire life, I have loved proving people wrong. People tell me I can't do something, and I say, I will show you. I actually work in technology, and believe it or not, I work in video games. So
okay.
I was, as a kid, I loved video games. Now, I was a football guy. I played 3 sports. I played football in college. But when I got done with football or baseball or whatever I was doing, I went in my bedroom and I was playing video games. And I can remember as a kid telling my mom that I wanted to work in video games. Most kids want to be a doctor or a police officer or a lawyer or whatever they want to be.
Right.
I wanted to work in video games. And I told my mom that. And, of course, my mom, being the great mom that she is, says, you probably need to find something else to do. And
there was a challenge.
There was the challenge. And so it took me until I was about 30 years old. Actually, well, I think I was almost 30. I was about 29. And I finally got my job in video games. And the company I worked for, they promoted me and they made me the director of a division of our company. And so I took over that role, and my mom was the first person I called. Right after I called my wife, of course. And I called my mom and I said, you're not going to believe it, but I got my job in video games. And so anyways, that was kind of how that came about. But yeah, I do technology.
How do you balance that with gigging and raising 3 daughters?
I do have 3 daughters.
And keeping a family together and all that stuff without letting the music slip.
I will be honest with you. I figured it up the other day. I work anywhere from 100 to 120 hours a week. And it's hard work. People don't realize what goes into music and what goes into the creative side of it. But people think it's all bells and whistles and fun. It's not. It is when you're on stage.
Yeah,
that's the best part.
But getting there
is a whole other thing. But it's a lot. It is a lot. But I've always been a lot kind of person. I can't just do the same thing over and over again. I don't like redundancy or monotony. And
that's that ADHD thing.
It is. It's that ADHD thing. Yeah. And so, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Now, you one of the places you play over there is the Apothecary.
Yes.
Now, how is that as opposed to playing a larger stage? Because that's a very intimate setting there, right?
It is a cool little spot, and that's actually where I played my very first show. They were my very first gig, and it's a funny story to that. Actually, it was a last-minute show. Yeah, last-minute cancellation, and the guy calls me, great guy, and he calls me at about 6:30 on a Saturday night, and he says, my musician canceled on me. Can you come play tonight? And I said, what time? He said 7:30. I got an hour. And he goes, I said, how long? He said, can you play for 4 hours? And this is my first show.
Yeah.
I said, I can play for 4 hours. He said, I don't care if you play the same song 5 times, as long as you can play for 4 hours. And I was so proud of myself because I went there. I did not play a single song twice. Did the entire 4-hour set and just we rock and roll and had a great time. But that little place is so cool because I like the intimate settings. You know, it's I've played bigger venues, I've played larger venues. I've played in front of 2 people, and I've played in front of 2,000. Mm-hmm. And you know, I love the big crowds because they're fun. But I also,
what do you lose? Do you feel like you lose something? When
you lose that intimacy.
Yeah.
You do. You lose that intimacy, and that to me is so cool because, like a prime example, I can think of a show that I played at a smaller venue in Sneed, Alabama, and there was a guy there, and this was the first time I had experienced it. But he come up and sat right in front of the stage, about as where you are in relevance to me, and I was playing my original music, and this guy starts singing along, and he knew my music, and he was singing it word for word. Right. And so getting to see that and witness that firsthand, and then after the fact, he comes up and he tells me, he's like, I listen to that song every day on my way to work. And that's my song that I listen to before I go into work. And it was just so cool. And I feel like you lose some of that when you play those larger venues. Now it's cool because you get to see people with their sign out and it says, you know, I love you and blah, blah, blah. But it's not as cool as that kind of moment.
Yeah. Now you built a pretty loyal following over there.
I have.
And who would you say are some of the unsung heroes from that area?
Gosh. As far as you would say some of the musicians or
some
fans?
of the musicians you've run across over there in Calhoun.
Oh my gosh. You know, I tell people all the time, if you could go 50 miles from my house and find some of the most talented musicians that on the planet. And I mean that with all honesty. I mean that people that would blow some of the folks right up the road from us away. And it is so awesome at how many talented people there are. And I've met so many of them, and they're just great people. You know, they're just great people. But you know, I can think of several. You know, my one of my cousins, his name's Scotty Sams, and he's trying his best to do country music and being serious about it. And he's so talented. He's a Randy Travis type voice. He's got that deep, twangy country sound, and he's so talented. And then, you know, I can think of several others. I got another cousin of mine. His name is Brian Woodard, and he is super talented. He has his range is out of this world. I mean, he's so talented. And several others I can think. There's a young guy that plays around up there, and such a good young man. His name's Ryan Lane, and Ryan is in the process. He's got some songs he's recorded and putting out, and he's kind of like an Eric Church type guy. You know, he's got that look, he's got the sound, and there's so many I could name besides those that are just so super talented. But it is great. It's really cool.
Now, you've recently put out a self-titled album, right?
Well, I have not yet.
Or you're in the process?
I'm in the process. I have a full-length album together. We've got to get it recorded. So I'm working to get that recorded and get that scheduled with Josh. We've got 3 songs that we've professionally recorded so far, and I have about 12 more songs put together. So it's going to be it'll be a full-length album.
What would you consider to be one of your pinch me moments in that process?
Oh gosh, the very first time I went to record.
Is that right?
That was the coolest experience. And I remember, I'm an emotional guy, and I'm not afraid to say it. And I remember, like, we recorded that song right here in the South. Was the very first song I did. And we recorded that song, and you know, I'm hearing it all day long because it's playing on repeat all day because we're tracking it. And I get in the car and pull out of the parking lot, and I put it on because he the day of, he gives you the raw mix, like day of.
Yeah.
And so I first thing I do is get in the car, put it in, and turn it on. And the first time that song played and I listened to it, I just started boohooing. I was just like, it was amazing. It blew me away. And I can't describe that feeling in words. It is, if you're a musician, you're an artist, and you've experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. But for somebody that has not experienced it, it's a rush, but it's like an overwhelming rush of different emotions, like joy and like it's like relief and just so many different things. It's like all the hard work that you put into it and all the effort and all the hours and all the time spent, and then you get to hear something of that caliber returned back to you. It's just it's a surreal experience. It really is.
Well, I ran across an article you were featured in last October, the Calhoun County Insight.
Yes.
And you were talking about the song "Nothing to Lose" and how it basically was reflective of you.
Right. It was.
And can you explain that a little bit?
So, Nothing to Lose, that song, my wife actually wrote that song for the most part. We wrote it together. And so my wife is super talented. She's a novelist and has written a book and doing great things. But she actually wrote most of that song, and we kind of put it together with the sense of, hey, I'm just a good old boy, but I got nothing to lose. I got nothing to lose, and this is a dream for me, and I want to chase it. And what have I got to lose for chasing it? Like,
that's true.
That's what the song that's what the song was about. And it's got I swore I'd never die with a no-name grave is one of the lines of that. And so it's I want more than anything, just want the opportunity to show people what I got, and that I'm a real person,
right? And
that the music is going to be relatable more than anything, and it's going to be able to tell a story that somebody somewhere needs to hear. And I had an experience with that just today. I wrote a brand new song a couple of weeks ago and recorded it. And put a little video out on social media, actually, before I left come here today. And a girl that I went to high school with, that I've only seen her about once or twice since we graduated high school, and she just commented on it and said, "Thanks." She said, "Thanks, bro. I needed to hear that today." And just things like that. And so I think that's what makes it so great.
Where you can reach out and touch them with your music.
That's right.
Well, we've got a few more questions for you, but before we do that, I want to get this out there because we need to let people know why we do this. These episodes are brought to you with the help of our sponsors, which we don't want to belabor that too much in these. But if you're a business or you would like to be a sponsor, all you have to do is just email us at 615distillery@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you. And please don't think you have to be directly involved with the music industry to be a sponsor. Support comes in all forms, and from a motel that will comp a room for an out-of-town songwriter who's here to do the show, to boots, to liquor, and guitar strings. Everyone here at the Distillery is involved in the performance of music in one form or another, and we know how hard it is to get your music known. That's why we do this. We bring the songwriters in so we can all get to know them and their music, and we do it at no cost to the songwriter, except for them getting themselves here. This business is hard enough, and it's our way of lending a little helping hand. So as we get back to your songs, I wanted to take, what's the biggest misconception you think people have about being an independent country music artist?
Goodness.
Especially coming from a small town like Jacksonville. And keeping your day job. I mean, people think it's all cotton candy.
That and I would say, there's a lot of misconceptions out there, I think, about artists just in general. But I think that people kind of see it and then they think that it's just this illustrious life. It's the life in the spotlight. And which, don't get me wrong, I enjoy that. I love it. I love getting to be up there and be in the spotlight and be on the stage and singing and performing. But there's a lot of work that goes into it. I do everything. So from managing my social medias, doing all the social media posts, I literally create posts, I build them out, and I schedule them to where they post throughout the day so that people constantly have good content coming that they can read about.
Right.
And, I think that's where the times have changed and really have gotten to that, where back in the older times with music, it was more about the music. You just created the music, and if somebody heard you,
Right.
you were able to make it. But now you can't just be a musician and expect to make it. You got to be a social media influencer.
Yeah.
You got to do all these
Manager,
things.
bookkeeper.
All those things. And and that's another aspect, calling and booking shows, talking to venues.
Yeah.
I don't play a single venue without calling them. Like, I have to call them and talk to them. And now it's starting to get to a point where I have people calling me and wanting to book me now. But it's taken a lot of work to get to that. So it's definitely a much harder process, I think, than people know.
People don't. I don't think people realize how terrifying it is to get up on that stage initially. After you own it, after the first 5 minutes or so, then those butterflies kind of go away. But initially, you're up there and you're putting your heart and soul out there, and okay, handing them a chainsaw, because it can be brutal. It is. They can be brutal.
I never, and I hate saying this, but I never really worried. I never had a problem with nerves. Like, I don't get nervous. Unfortunately, I would say the vast majority of my life, I have been put into the spotlight whether I wanted to or not, because I played sports and I was an athlete, and I was always a captain for the team, and so I had to speak at pep rallies and do those things, and so I naturally was in that position. But it's not really so much as nerves as it is excitement, because I get juiced.
Yeah, it could be.
I get juiced for me. That's for me personally.
Yeah.
It's I get juiced before I go on stage. I'm excited because I want to go out there and kill it and it just be a good show. And now I will tell you, I think I had the first major nerves before a performance this past weekend. As you probably can hear, I'm a little bit stuffed up this morning or this evening. And I had to perform the national anthem at a bike race. There was a professional bike race in Anniston, Alabama, and I was asked to do the national anthem.
That's not an easy song to sing.
And that's the one song that you do not mess up. Nope. Because no one will let you live it down. It'll follow you forever. It will follow you forever. Yep. And all you got to do is go on social media and you can find the video where people are dragging somebody through the mud because they messed up.
You can do 1,000 great shows. Did you mess up the anthem? And it's going to follow you.
And I had to perform that, and I literally, I'm getting a little better today. I could not breathe through my nose at all. Could not. And I was so nervous. I said, oh, Lord, please just let me make it through this. Please don't let me end up on the front page of YouTube viral because I butchered the national anthem.
Or forgot the words.
And so between those two things, forgetting the words and messing it up, it was a very nerve-wracking experience. And I mean, this was a deal where they walked me out. I felt like I was on like ESPN or something because they walked me out to the center of the start line. They got cameras all pointing at me, and I'm singing it. And I mean, it was a really, I would say that was probably the most professional experience I've had as a musician to date. And that it was cool. It was cool, but it was nerve-wracking.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk about your song that we're featuring tonight, "Simple Life." Simple Life's the dream. When I listened to it, I was like, this is like a heartfelt anthem that you've written.
Right.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Simple Life's the dream, I can say to date, was the easiest song I have written. It is my life in one song. I still live on the same street where I was born and raised. My mom and dad, if you go through the woods behind my house, it's 500 or 600 yards to the house where they brought me home from the hospital. And I've got aunt and uncles that live across the street. My grandmother lives behind me. I've got other family on the other side of me. My parents are a couple miles down the street. And, when about 20 years ago, my dad, he worked for a company called Warner Ladder. I'm sure you probably heard of him.
Yeah.
and they shut down and moved to Mexico. And we lived on that same street. And when they shut down, he decided not to go with them to Mexico, and he took a job in a small town called Wadley, Alabama. Shout out to Wadley. And we moved down there, and when we left, I told my parents the day we were leaving, I said, I'm going to live back on that street one day. And it took me about 20 years, and I did. I got our home where we live now and moved back. And I could remember as a kid, there's a little neighborhood right beside our house where my great-grandparents and my grandparents, where I was born, like it was all of our family there at one point in time in that little neighborhood. And I could remember riding in the old pickup truck with my pawpaw, and when you'd pull out of his road and you would turn right, there was this hill, and there's an old rundown house that sat there for years. It was empty and vacant, but it had these big, just beautiful old oak trees. And that house, he used to always would say when you'd ride by it, and he had one of those voices that when he talked, people would just shut up and listen.
Yeah.
And he said, that'd be a pretty place for a house. And I can remember him saying that as a kid. And he died, and after he passed away, my uncle bought that place, and he built a mansion. He's a home builder, and he built this mansion there, white picket fence. He kept the oak trees and built his house right on that hill. And I'm out in the front yard this past summer, and I'm watching my 3 little girls play in the front yard, and I'm sitting under my carport and looking from my carport at them playing. The backdrop is his house and that farm.
Okay, yeah. And the oak trees.
And I'm sitting there, and it just came to me. I looked at my wife. I said, I gotta get my guitar. So I run inside and I grab my guitar and I sit down, and I wrote that song in like 20 minutes. Just boom, popped it out.
Well, it's interesting because it's got. We were talking earlier, and your music has a feeling of, if I could visualize it, put it in a visual perspective, it's like a race car pulling a parachute. I mean, it's almost Southern rock, but with an old country feel to it.
Right.
And the songs, Simple Life, it's a story about small town living with pride.
Right.
And most people these days, once as soon as they can leave a small town, they're gone.
Right.
So I was really surprised whenever I listened to the song. I was like, he really likes where he's living.
I do. And, it's, I've lived in the big city. I lived in Birmingham, which is, that's a big city for me. It tells you what I think. But I lived in Birmingham for a while, and to be honest with you, I hated it. And, too many people, too many people. And I hate traffic, don't like traffic, can't stand it. I'm the type of person where I will literally drive an hour out of my way just so that I don't have to stop and go traffic. And I've been that way my whole life. And I just like the simple life. I really do. I love being able to walk outside and hear the birds chirping and see a deer running across the field, or it's just, or be able to walk down the street and go to a pond and catch some bass. Or
it's got that feel that makes people want to slow down.
It does.
Now, when you went to the studio to record that, what was the production like on that? Did you let Bright have most of the production say-so in it, or did you bring your own?
Well, so, it was funny. We had a conversation about some music that I liked, and I think he took some of that and kind of ran with it. And
because it's got a real exhale feel to it, and I was like, okay, I wonder how, because most producers, they're very cut and dry, they want certain things in their music, or they expect their music to sound a certain way and so forth. And I was curious as to how much of that influence you brought into yourself.
He definitely, he has a way of reading the artist, and he definitely has, things and questions that he asks, which they're loaded questions, obviously, but he has the way of articulating that. And he and I, we jive really well. Like he's a dad, he's got kids, we're fairly close to the same age, and we like the same things. We just kind of get along. And so that makes it so much better, because to me, it's more like a friendship than it is really a business relationship, because we can get in there and we can talk and we crack jokes and we laugh and cut up and have a good time. And so it's just natural. It's natural. And I think that
pressure or anything like that.
There's no pressure, right? It's like, I don't have somebody there that's just hard nosed and being like, that sounded like crap, we got to do it again. Like he's like, you can do better than that. Let's beat it. You can beat it. Let's sing it one more time, So it's just a more personable experience, and that to me is invaluable. I would rather work in a situation like that. I always tell people I've reached a point in age in my life where I want to work with people I want to work with. I don't want to work with somebody I don't like, and I'm to that point. It very hard. I can pick and choose. I'm at a point where I can pick and choose and say, look, I don't like you. I don't want to work with you. It's like I'm just the way I am. And so that it was easy. It was just easy. And then
so now, if nobody knew you and they never heard music, would Simple Life be a song that would give them an insight as to what kind of person you are?
Absolutely. I think if you listen to that song and you listen to the lyrics, it will tell you who I am and where I'm from and what I'm about, and to the T.
Would you say it also as kind of a signpost as to where you want your music career to go? Because it sounds like you still want the music career, you still want to keep that small town feel.
Right. I mean, I think that's what I want to do. Is I want to be that guy from the small town in Alabama that just makes good music, just good feel good music, and that's what I'm about. I want the music to have a purpose and have that feel good sensation, and that was kind of what I was going after with Simple Life. I want it to be almost borderline like tearjerker type song, but it like takes you right there to that point.
Make you appreciate what you got.
Right. And like you said, slow down and really just appreciate life. And I think that's what I was really going for with it.
Interesting. Well, would you mind playing your song for us?
We can do it.
We'll do it in the Bourbon Room. While Mr. Jones is getting set up, we're going to get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back and listen to him play a song.
Dana Guy at House of Color helps you find the right colors and your personal style. Serving Franklin and beyond. Call 615-305-7396 or click the link in the bio to schedule a direct appointment. Looking for the best in indie country music? Tune in to EMM Radio, your home for fresh country hits, exclusive artist interviews, and live performances. Stream it all at emmradio.us. Real country, real music.
This
Dana Guy at House of Color helps you find the right colors and your personal style. Serving Franklin and beyond? Call 615-305-7396 or click the link in the bio to schedule a direct appointment. Looking for the best in indie country music? Tune in to EMM Radio, your home for fresh country hits, exclusive artist interviews, and live performances. Stream it all at emmradio.us. Real country, real music.
Well, that does it for this episode of The Distillery. Be sure to share our broadcast with your friends, follow us, and tune in to get to know another great songwriter. You can view snippets of this broadcast on all social media platforms, and the full episode will be on YouTube. Our website is thedistillery.music. We'll also have it there. Additionally, the audio form of this episode will be rebroadcast on EMM Radio worldwide. So tell your friends about the Distillery, and especially the great songwriters you're getting to know here. Buy their songs, stream their music, put them in your playlist. Let's help these storytellers of life, because that's what country music's all about, telling the story of life. Take care, be good to one another. We'll see you next time.
Home sweet